I want you to breathe. I want you to breathe. I want you to breathe.
Hello, friends. We're back. We're Black and Curious. I'm Kandron.
What up, what up? It is your girl, Dehjai. And we
I'm
actually...
Kathryn.
Catherine, we
Shout out
have a
to
guest,
Kathryn.
people.
I mentioned her in a couple of our conversations over the last year that we've had this podcast. So thank you for joining us. I love you so much. So, are you having a cocktail? Do you have anything with you?
I have water, but you and I are going to do cocktails after this.
We are, but that's okay. Listen, look,
I'm holding it for them.
Have a little bit of something. We got little hot toddies going on, so it's not to worry. We always like to ask though, just in case. So to get into the meat of the things, the last time that we were together, Kandron and I were having a conversation about value systems and how people define them. So I wanted to pull my friend and mentor in to kind of talk to us about what she believes what values are, like what does a value mean to you? And then also like, how do you help people define them?
Awesome. And first, let me just thank you guys so much for inviting me, and I've loved what I've watched of yours. And what I love best, I was just thinking about, like, your friendship and your chemistry comes through. I love that you're talking about it as it's happening. You know, you're not out here, you have it all figured out and you're like, look at, we've got it all sorted and it's perfect. You are sharing with your listeners, right? That as you're figuring it out, which I just think is so powerful and vulnerable and deeply courageous. Your vibe is fun. So the number of times I fell out laughing as I was listening to the two that you guys sent me in particular. Which, if I'm not giggling, I'm not interested in hanging out because there's too much serious as it is. So love what you guys are doing. That. Yeah.
That's what we are here for, to keep it light as much as possible. We still talk about serious.
Yeah. And Dehjai and I met at when we worked at the same place, and I can still remember that very first session that we had and how we kind of connected. So again, thank you for inviting me to be here.
Of course.
Values. So just a couple things, because I one of the things you mentioned that I wanted to make sure you guys have and could share with your people is you talked about like ways to get into the conversation around values and tools that you can use, right? And so I'll tell you about a couple tools so that people can go find them and use them and easy, and it's not proprietary or any of that good stuff. And then I'll tell you a little bit about my kind of journey around values. So if you do a simple Google search on values and then look at images, you're going to get a bunch of things that look like this, right? And it's a pie, right? And so, and then often there are numbers, right? 0 to 10. And so then, you would go through and you would either take a fully filled out wheel that someone else has created. I grabbed this one from Start of Happiness. I want to give credit where credit is due. It was free online. And you would kind of define what each pie slice means to you, right? They have things like physical environment, business, career, family, and friends. So you would define for you, what does that mean? What is my value around that? And then you might go through the pie a second time. So you define it first, then you go through and you say, all right, from 0 to 10, if 0 is not honoring or living this value at all, and 10 is I'm honoring it and living it perfectly in my life, where do I fall? And then you go down a third time and say, where do I want to be? And then you could take a step back, right? And say, okay, which of these pie chunks really catches my eye that is the place I want to put some energy going forward for the next, what is it, day, week, hour, quarter, whatever the heck, right? So that's one way to kind of engage in, like, if you like a tool and you really want to have some kind of structure around a values conversation. That's one way. Another way is if you do a Google search on values list, and again, you go to images, and then again, I grabbed the first one that showed up, which was Brene Brown. Can't help it. Love her. Of course.
Right? Really the GOAT.
Right. This was a free downloadable PDF, and it just gives you a list of words that are values, right? And so again, what you could do is, I've had coaches do this with me where they say, like, pick your top 5. And the list is just to help jog your memory, right? Because I tend to go blank when someone asks me a question. right? So then you take your top, and again, you'd go through this exercise of, well, what's the definition of this value mean to you? How do you know when you're honoring it, not honoring it? And where would you like to put some effort? Now, some nuances around values in general, which I think is fun to talk about. And then I'll pause a hot second because I'd love your thoughts. When I think about values and someone asks me about values, I think it's important. I tend to have 3 different buckets of values. One is the values I'm actually living right now, right? I can look to my life and see evidence of values that are alive and well. Then I can have aspirational values. Like there was a time when the way I engaged with my health was not the way I wanted it to be. And so I was like, I mean, if I have to be honest about my values, I'm not living a value of health, but I want it to be. So it's okay to have like aspirational values. And then I also had a third bucket of values to pay attention to that can be overused. So for example, for me, loyalty was one. I can loyalty into my own detriment. Right. So
talk about it. Okay.
Right. So know that, values can also sometimes be overused, just like any gift or any skill, I think. And so when I remember when my coach was like, when I said, well, loyalty is obviously one, but I don't like it. In fact, it gets me in trouble. She was like, well, cool. That's going to be on when it gets triggered, I actually need to pause and look at it and say, where's the line of, I like loyalty when it shows up here, but when it goes into here, now I'm actually into people pleasing. I'm into whatever crap. So
you done said something here today.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I don't hear nothing else,
yeah,
that bucket that you need to pay attention to,
yeah,
that's the girl for me.
Like, yeah.
Okay. I will say like most of my values at this point are aspirational because I feel that I'm finally getting clarity around what they are. So I don't know that I'm really like living out a lot of my values, but I am looking to like start to live out and making more decisions that are conscious of those values that I'm looking to live out. So like I feel like for the first time I'm really starting to be intentional around what those values are and making sure I'm in alignment. But that bucket that you got to watch out for,
that's
real.
Period.
Yeah.
That's the one right there.
Yeah. Okay, so those are like for people that want tools. Now, questions for you guys, because I think these are the really 2 important questions. How do you know / what does it feel like when you are living in accordance with your values versus when you don't?
When I'm not, it's incongruent. Period. Like everything, it feels like you're like trying to drag nails on a chalkboard.
Okay.
I say for me, like there have been times where I had like glimpses of things. And there was a certain amount of freedom that I felt, and there's a certain amount of just peace. And I think like those are the pretty much the 2 biggest feelings that I felt when I've been intentional about things. When I haven't, I just feel, I don't know, just gross. I just feel bad. Like I just feel heavy and like everything is I have to put forth so much effort. Like nothing is ever easy. Like nothing is ever just happening for me. Like everything is just like I'm in constant battle mode. And I feel like that is the feeling I'm trying to get away from.
Okay.
That's
so yeah.
The feeling of like, I totally skip. I always go right to the thing that's wrong. But the thing of like, when it's right, it feels good. And they're not considering, I'm living my value. You're just in it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most powerful experience for me. I have to have more awareness around that when I'm being my most authentic self and when everything is right and feels good, then this is where I need to be going. Like that's where my ticker is pointing. And so when I do the opposite of that, like everything is chaos because it's like, girl, what are you doing? Why are we doing this? This does not make me feel good. This is not in alignment.
Yeah.
So I'm not. Go ahead. Yeah.
The thing you were saying about the bucket to pay attention to, like for me, the one that's coming up for me like right now is money. Like that's the biggest one for me because I like to be comfortable. Okay. The doll does not like struggle, honey.
We sure don't. I'll put myself in there with you. We don't.
Yes.
We don't struggle. Okay. So there's like, but there is a certain point, and I think I'm reaching to that point now where it's like, okay, it can't all be about money because it's like I'm at a job where I get paid pretty well, but like everything else is wrong. Like everything else is out of alignment. So there has to be something, some sort of adjustment that I'm making there, to either maybe take a step back, maybe take a little less money, because I could still be comfortable with less money. So like I feel like that's the one for me that I'm gonna have to keep an eye out on, because
figure that out. Yeah.
comfort and luxuries.
Yeah.
Mucho.
Okay, so no surprise, y'all, and there is no grading system here, but y'all just A++ to that question. And here's why. You both went straight to feelings on both. How do I know when it feels good and how do I know it feels good, like or bad? You actually described the sensations of, you talked about nails on a whiteboard, and you talked about a sensation of freedom when it feels good, right? So this is the key, I think, and this is where I've been kind of in my journey, is I'm moving more and more to feelings are the way. This is how this is my North Star. How do I feel now? How do I want to feel? If there is a gap, now I have some options, right? And so to me, the thing about feelings and values is you can use, like, if you stay in the journey, like all you need to do. So these tools are fun and cool, and they can help you get in, especially if you've never thought about values before, right? And just a way to start. I'm also a big fan of keep it simple, right? First time I did this, I probably pulled out 32 values and was like, well, it's this and this and this and that, right? So the more simple you can get it, the better. And there is nothing more simple than, if you can pay attention to your feelings, that's all you need. And it will tell you not only what's happening for me right now, like you can hold it up to the lens of, I'm feeling a kind of way. What is it telling me about my values? Or am I lit right? Is something getting stepped on or something getting honored? But it can also be when you don't know. When you don't know, if you look through the lens of what are my feelings telling you, it can give you some information, at least data, right? It might not give you the answer, but it can at least give you data. And so to me, like, staying really attuned to the feeling of a thing will ultimately give you everything you need to know. So by that token, when you think about things like money as a value, I want you to invite you to consider turning that into, what is the feeling experience that the alignment and the congruence of when money is right in your life, how will that make you feel, so that you can be paying attention to that as your marker? Because again, you guys talked about this in your other podcasts. You guys get that, like, connecting to outcomes, it's a little tricky, right? When you're like, it's got to be this much, or it's got to look exactly like this, you don't leave. I think there's not enough room left for the universe to deliver the way it, right? Like beyond that. But if you're like, hey, the reason money is a value for me is because there's a level of security that I need, there's a level of comfort that I need. You'll be able to dial that in, and you might find, turns out I don't need $500,000 a year as an income, as an example. I don't know. But I can see how that feeling shifts, right? As I play with even just trying it on, like a jacket, not actually quitting your job, but like, all right, what if I like did a budget where I'm making half what I'm making? What would that look like? How does that feel to me? And that is, I think, also a simple way to stay connected to your values, how you're doing it, and what they can tell you.
And this is something that I've been sort of
2.5 seconds. This is why I wanted this lady on this here podcast. So blank in the period. So as you already know, I made mention in the previous episode that she is an illustrious life coach and the purest example of living your values that I've ever met in my entire life. To have a conversation with her is to be inadvertently coached, whether you know it or not. You walk away with a whole lot of nuggets. So carry on, Kandron.
No, I was going to say, like, just in terms of that sort of feeling. So for a concrete example, I feel like that hit me really hard lately is in my job search, right? So obviously I could just progress in this same industry and make probably a lot more money. But I was kind of like, okay, I know I don't want to work into this industry because of all of the feelings that I have about it, all of the feelings that the job makes me feel. So I'm like, how can I figure out a way to do what I'm doing here? Like, I like the work, but in a different industry. So it started like broadening my mind of like, oh, well, like most companies are going to have some version of what I'm doing. So like, I'll just go to companies that I like, that I feel are more in alignment with the type of creativity that I value and whatever else. And I'll start there. And I have been able to get some job interviews that way, and been able to like really articulate in the job interviews, like why I want to work here. It's not like that bullshitting that you have to do sometime in job interviews to like try to horseshoe your way in. It's like, no, I believe in this. And it's like, I believe in what you guys are doing, and I want to be a part of this company and this team for this reason. And it was funny because I had a job interview, and like I was doing research on the company, and I realized that I had actually like written a paper about somebody that they're partnering with now, like in law school. So it was just like, wait, okay, I can point to this as like, okay, this is a through line for me. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it makes you start to think about things differently. Like, and you don't have to necessarily uproot everything, but there can be like certain decisions that I'm finding that I'm making a little bit differently, and it's making me get creative about how I'm exploring jobs or anything else for that matter.
Yeah. And what I loved is that you started with, how does the company make me feel? You were like, I went to companies that I like, right? Which is some sensation of the vibe is good.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think the world at large, I think it's getting better, but often poo-poos feelings, right? Oh, it's whatever, it's juju, it's woo-woo, it's what. And I have found that as I have like turned my own compass towards feeling being the guide, it is way faster, way clear, because this doesn't lie, right? Like if you think about your soma, the body, right, interacts with and receives all the data out there. It gets it through the brain, it gets it through the eyes, through the feelings, through the smell, all the things. You're constantly getting data. By the time you have a knowing about how you feel about something, it's because you've danced with the data and you just know, listen, right? Just listen.
Dance with the data?
Mm-hmm.
Write that down. Write it down. We got a post-it note out. Go ahead, Kathryn. Keep going.
Right. So I just want to keep encouraging, you know, everyone I know, like feelings are wise, and yes, stay engaged. You know, if you're numb, begin the journey to unnumb and connect to your feelings. There's all kinds of ways, you know, like I when I was numb, I had to Google, how do I feel? Right. You'll get there. But if you pay attention, like you know how things show up for you, like all the data you need will be made evident to you, and you'll know intuitively and immediately, does this align or not? And here's the other thing, there's a difference between knowing and acting. So you were talking about right, you were talking about like, I have a knowing around your job, Kandron, but not, you know, like I feel like I think you used the word like fear, right? It's scary to think about actually like making this, and that's, hey, all we're saying is like, give the data and the knowing a chance to show up.
Yeah.
And if it's scary and it like, you don't have to do anything yet. Like knowing and doing are two different things. Give yourself the room, like get practiced at and give yourself the room to get good at knowing what you're feeling and understanding what it's telling you. And not having to do anything with it, because I also have a story and a belief that says you'll know what you need to know when you need to know it. You'll know it clearly, to include when it's time to act.
Little silent applause.
Yay. Right?
I love that.
Give yourself some grace and space with it all.
Yeah. That's amazing.
I just love her. This is why I love her.
I just love you.
I'm just sitting here like, see, yay.
Right. Feel like I need a nap after this.
Listen, that is a knowing and an action that can go pretty close together. Yes. Right?
So with all that in mind, what would you say gets in the way for most people of like defining their values? What is, in your experience, and personally?
You guys, listen, I took notes and I want to throw your words back at you because I loved it so. I loved it so much.
I told you.
I loved it so much.
Okay, well, as long as you loved it, child, you could throw my words back.
You said a form of American culture takes you away from yourself.
Yeah.
Said something like that, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think, and I think it's just part of how we in the US, it certainly has been my experience. You are raised and you have all these expectations put you on what you're supposed to do, who you're supposed to be, how you're supposed to do it, all of that, and what it means to be successful. And it's a fairly narrow, one looking kind of way, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're lucky, someday you wake up and you're like, what the actual F? Like, hold on a second, right? So I think for many people, when especially like if, the first time I'm coaching somebody or the first time we've crossed paths, what are your values? People are like, I don't even understand the question. Like right. I speak English and I'm awake. I don't understand the question. Right.
Right.
Or they can rattle off all the things that they should have as their values. Right. And I used to struggle with this.
That's what I did.
Right. Yes. 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 So I think call it our conditional programming, call it all the crap that's out there that doesn't support and isn't all about saying, we don't actually know for you, you know for you. And so engage in the work of knowing yourself. So I think it's almost like a new language that people have to realize that I think you have it when you're little. I think we intuitively know who we are, right? And 100%. What we like. Right. Mm-hmm. And then it's beat out of us. And, because you gotta learn the things the way they teach it at the time that they teach it. And you have to write all the things in order to get through it. And so then and you got to be good girls and boys and all that crap. Right. Mm-hmm. So, and then never mind so that's kind of one thing, like to your point of American culture separates us from ourselves. Mm-hmm. And then add to that, all the shoulds, right? If you can actually create enough space from and you can see the BS for what it is, now you're going to get into, but I should take care of my parents. I should take care of my kids. I should, all the shoulds.
I just got hit.
I was going to say, you caught it straight. I caught it straight earlier, but you just caught one. Go ahead.
Yeah, right. And both of these are real. These are real big things. And I just want to offer, we all have them. I don't think any of us get out of having to grapple with both. And I want to believe that there is always a way through, and it's usually not a black and white kind of thing, right? Like it doesn't mean you got to cut your parents off, in order for you to honor your values, or you got to, leave your family or whatever, there's always going to be a way through where you can find balance. Right. And again, if you can stay connected to your feelings of, hey, I want to honor, I want to engage in a value around family and support. And it's in my cautionary bucket of one I have to pay attention to, for example. And it's almost like when you're cooking, when you're frying stuff, I don't have a fancy anything. And so if I'm frying anything in oil, I'm constantly having to check the temp because, so you're constantly having to adjust it so you don't ruin everything. And it's just kind of constant, like giving yourself permission to like, you're doing the best you can. You're doing it perfectly. Go ahead and grant yourself that. And you're going to need to adjust as you go.
Yeah. I've always said I knew exactly who I knew exactly who I was and who I was supposed to be up until about, I would say 20.
Ooh, will you tell us who,
clear.
Who, what, who, and what?
No, I just was very clear that I was a creative person, that I was smart, but like I also needed creative outlets. I was always entrepreneurial. I was always starting a business. As soon as I learned how to do something, I was trying to figure out how to sell it. I learned how to sew and I was selling curtains. I learned how to as soon as I learned to do something, I knew that it was time to monetize. Yeah. And it was like, I hit this after I went to law school. I think law school is what really confused me, because that was the should. And that's when the shoulds started to introduce themselves into my life. So it might have been even a little later, I guess, probably till about 22, I guess, that I knew who I was. And yeah, law school just confused the hell out of me. And so then I spent a long time like trying to chase and trying to figure out how to fit into that very like narrow sort of what it means to be a lawyer. And I felt very out of place. And I beat myself up a lot because it was like, this is not working out for me. I'm not being able to find the right jobs. I'm trying to do stuff on my own that's not working out either. And it just took me saying at some point, like, okay, I don't like this and I'm not going to do it anymore. And I'm not going to try anymore. If there's certain things that I do like about the law, like I am a strange person, so I do like reviewing contracts very much. I like the words of it all. I like the language of it all. So that's just about all that I will do for you. And I charge by the page, and that's pretty much it. I will draft sometimes, maybe a little bit, but that's the only part of it I like to do. So that's the only part of it that I'm going to do going forward. So but it's taken me like a really long time to get there because again, I took a bunch of student loans, I went through a whole process, I got barred, I did the thing, and it's just like, that's not who I am. And so I am coming now full circle to like realize that was like a detour. And like actually I was clear, and I should just go back to the vision of what my life was at 22 and start to kind of it's not all that, it's not impractical, but like, start to tap into that energy, if you will, of how I felt at that age and go forward with that. Yeah. Because that was the true version of me, not the thing I've been doing for the last 10 years or whatever.
Okay. I got two things I got to say
15.
Here. The first thing is, y'all are what? You're young. I'm 48. Y'all are in your what? 30s. You're babies. So the fact that you are where the fact that you are where you are, I think, miles ahead of many. So you're doing amazing. Again, give yourself some credit for what you know to be true now already, right? They call it midlife crisis for a reason. That shit usually happens at 50, right? So you're ahead of the curve.
That should happen at 35.
Right. Also, Kandron, I hope that you go back. I'm going to give you an invitation / homework item. Go back to when you watch this. I want you to pay attention to the part where you described who you were in your early 20s, and you used it a past tense. You said, I was. Mm-hmm. And I want you to write all of those down on a piece of paper and say, I am. Yay. And just see it and just have those. Right. And because it's not was, it's are, right. Mm-hmm. And perhaps that can also help you as you're seeking, right. Because now, like, I am these things. And so if it's not a good fit for that, it's not a good fit.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll say is, and these are all my, these stories help me navigate my own life, which I have a story that says everything is happening perfectly. So for whatever reason, you were meant to go to grad school. It wasn't an F up. It wasn't a wrong way. This was part of your path. And I choose to believe that it was on purpose, right? So there will be a time when you're going to able to look back and be like, oh, yeah, that's why, right?
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Even and perhaps this is part of it. Maybe we all need this taking away from ourselves in order to fight to get back to it, because then it means something different.
Absolutely. Ooh, you ain't said nothing but a word right there. Okay. Did you have another thought, Dehjai? I thought you had do you have another question?
Something? She's run through most of the questions that I had in her Kathryn way, so I'm not mad at all. I don't have nothing to say. I was just like, she got me today. But so you said that you had jotted down some things. Was there anything else that you wanted to ask us while you that you had jotted down? I'm curious now.
Listen, it's funny. Look at my little notes.
Notes.
You know what? Okay. I'm going to throw out some things that there's some things that I loved that I want to shout out with you guys. Keep on living. Right. You're talking about your elders saying that. Make decisions for you. I'm just telling you what you said, because I think sometimes you say it and you don't realize you said such magic. Right. So I want you to hear your own magic again. I love, you talked about an explosion sometimes not being what you wanted, but it's what you needed. Mm-hmm. That is real. You're ready. This one I wrote down, I think, because you guys were Yeah, you guys were kind of wondering about that, and the answer is you're ready, and that what you're doing is a radical act that requires huge courage. Don't undersell and don't undervalue the badassery that you guys are engaged in by being on this journey. It's, forgive me, I think it's way easier to stay numb, stay asleep, and do what you're supposed to do and do what everyone tells you should do and all that crap.
That's one thing I have been like, I struggled with for a while there. I was like, man, I wish I could just be one of those people that just goes through life with not no ambition, but like, but like very classic ambition to get a good job, find a house. Like, I wish I could be one of those people. And like, even trying to be one of those people, it was just like, girl, this is not you.
Miserable.
It doesn't feel right.
This sucks. I hate every second of this. Like,
right.
So,
I loved, like, I think you guys should keep playing with the vibe and the analogy of the Bright Line versus Amtrak. Like, that's another way, right?
Really?
Like another way for you guys as you're checking in on like, how's this feeling? You can be like, am I on the rickety, clunkety Amtrak, or does this feel like I just stepped on the Bright Line, right? So again, right, like something simple. Like, I love these short, pithy things that you know what it means and it takes you right to what matters. And then I love you guys, you were talking about I need a decision-making rubric, right? Which I think, right?
They just not bought into that one, but I am.
You know, I'm very like, you know, woo-woo, airy-fairy, like that. What a rubric. We ain't doing
listen, here's where I get to marry the two of you together.
Yeah.
Have a decision-making rubric that is based on feelings.
That's what I said. Remember, I was saying,
I mean, you
like,
did,
you
but
I
got lost with the rubric.
Yeah. And then, I mean, here's the one, I'd like to hear how you guys play with this. Okay. So if we're talking about vibes, we're talking about energy, right? And I have it like attracts like, right? So if we're talking about law of attraction, manifestation, all this kind of stuff, right? If I want to attract what I want, I've got to get myself into that feeling vibration for it to come to me. So how do you guys navigate? You don't have what you want right now, right? Neither of you are in, just as for an example, jobs right now that make you feel the way you want to feel. So how do you protect your vibe? So on a day-to-day basis, as much as you can, you are feeling the ways you want to feel so that what you do want comes to you in all the ways. How do you guys do that?
I don't. And I'm going to be honest with you. You've given me something to think about. Because I just march to that job and I go to Starbucks and I go and then I bitch about it all day long. Because my coworkers are in a similar place, it is pretty easy for all of us to do the same thing. But I have realized like that is not healthy and we have got to find a better way of being.
Okay.
Ironically, even though this summer has been a point of transition for me, like in major ways with all the things that have happened, I am doing that now. And I don't, and this shit has not been easy. At a later date, I will probably express to our small audience, hey y'all, what has been going on for me, because I'm a very transparent person, but like, whoo child, but I am doing it now. And I do feel different. It's like the training wheels are coming off at this point.
Yeah. So
to be continued. I feel like I'll have more of an answer for that.
Yeah. I mean, here's the call to action, right? Protect the vibe. At all costs. And it's not anything outside. It's you, it's yours, it's you, right? So 100%. if you're feeling stuck in the ick and taking a walk would make you feel better, do it, right? I just saged the hell out of my place last night and even did bell stuff because I was like, there's some shit feeling stuck in here and it doesn't feel good. And I woke up this morning, feels way different. So, you know, at all costs, protect the vibe because that's what's going to get you what you want. You know, you feeling bad is not going to get you what you want. You feeling good is.
Yeah.
I love that.
You know, we just gonna end it right there.
I was gonna say, I mean, honestly, we can end right there. Kathryn, if there is anything else that you would like to share or tell the people how to get in contact with you, we would love for you to share.
I have all the things written down, so I'm ready to run it down for you if you like.
Thank you. Well, listen, so I'm actually, me and my ride or die who I've known for 20 years have turns out we've created a thing and we've written a book, and it's called Your Story, Your Truth.
Mine is on the way, because you didn't tell me it was able to buy, so I bought it yesterday.
Okay, yay. Yes, it's on Amazon. It's How to Live Your Very Best Life. And a lot of these, like, it's all about story management. It's and because this whole premise is what you tell yourself about yourself, other people, and the way things work is the life that you have. And the way you do it is through your feelings. So kind of everything that I've been talking about around feeling stuff, it's part of the Red Cat Way, this framework. Yeah. Your story, your truth. My partner in crime, Red, we've come up with this. And so and you can, reach out, ask questions, do whatever, all the things. We have a YouTube channel. We're just starting that. And we just started TikTok yesterday. We don't know what the hell we're doing.
We don't need this, okay?
Right. It's all good times.
I feel like Kathryn is doing herself a disservice right now. So I'm just gonna run down all the things. Okay. There is a book with her friend, like she said, Red. So it's called The Red Cat Way. So if you check out the redcatway.com, you can see the information about the book, and it will take you over to Amazon so that you can order it. They also have the podcast, like she said. They are on YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, and TikTok.
Just now TikTok started. Yes, thank you.
And then Kathryn also has attunement coaching group.
Yeah, attunement coaching group. Yeah,
I think it is attunementcoachinggroup.com. Check her out if you want to book her.
Yeah,
if you wanted to have a conversation so that you all can get the value of having a conversation with her and see the gold that she is. I hope that you are aware that this is like, you touch my spirit every time I talk to you, and I appreciate that. And I hope that you all that are listening got touched as well.
And we're going to leave all her information down below in the description box, so you can just go and click the links down below.
Thank you. And thank you again for having me on. I'm really, really very grateful for it, and keep doing what
we're gonna have you back. What you
keep doing. Anytime.
I need more.
Love you both. Yes. Keep on keeping on.
Thank you, Kathryn.
Thanks.
All right, everybody, go follow Kathryn's links, get to know her, find out more about her, and then
buy her book.
Buy her book. Like, comment, and subscribe. And all of our information is down below in the description box as well. And we will catch you next time.
Peace out, friends.
Bye.